This is Face the State for Sunday, July 20th. Another week, another candidate ready to run. This time it's Janelle Stelson getting an endorsement from that guy, the governor, in an attempt to beat Scott Perry. Does she live in the district yet? That answer and much more coming up. Why does the Department of Justice want your voter information? We're looking into that request and why some states are fighting back. And who's behind the mask? Some immigration officers. Are they allowed to stay covered up? Why? We're uncovering some reasons behind that and much more on Face the State.
CBS 21 News presents Face the State with Joel D. Smith, a look at the issues and politics that shape Pennsylvania.
Let's start with this week. My first guest right here has been called PA's most unique member of the House of Representatives. We're going to make him prove that in a second. As you'll hear, maybe it does fit. Representing Lycoming and Union County is Republican Jamie Flick. Hello, how are you?
Great, Joel. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so how was payday for you this week?
There was no payday for me. I, along with a couple other state representatives, because the budget has not passed, I'm having my paycheck withheld.
A lot of people hear that and they go, I don't think I can go with 1 or 2 paychecks. You've had to go 6 months before. How do you pull that off?
2 years ago. Well, I had a successful software company. I mean, I'm in mid-60s now. I sold that company and I have some proceeds from that. So to be fair, I am able to go a few months without it. But I've also, in the past, tightened my belt like we're asking other members of the Commonwealth to do.
What else makes you unique, you think?
Boy, that's a great question. I have no political background. So I grew up on a farm, started an IT company. Had never been to so much as a school board meeting. I had an incident happen to me, as many constituents have, and that incident caused me to run for office.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So not only did it inspire you to do that, but to try to do something about it. So take us back to what happened.
Yeah, like 50% of Pennsylvanians, I went through divorce. I had a custody, you could say, battle, would be putting it softly. I fought for a couple years to get 50% custody of my children. That did not easily happen. It caused some health issues with me, and I decided I would go to my state rep. I wasn't happy with the answer I got, so I thought I will run to office, and if I can't get somebody else to write a law, I'll write my own.
So we'll get to the law in a second, but that decision to run, did people think you were crazy? Because like you said, you have no background and probably had no inkling you would ever do something like this.
No, no inkling whatsoever. Even my own party did not support me at all. Even the second time I ran, my own party did not support me.
So why'd you win, you think?
I was pretty well known in the area. It's a bit of a sports background. I had coached every single kid in the entire county.
Helps a little bit.
Football or softball or baseball, you name it.
Yeah.
And my business, I was well connected with my business. And I think I had a message to people, and I knocked on 1 million doors.
That can definitely help as well. So that brings you in, you get in there, and then this is really your number one mission is to fix this, something that you thought was wrong. So tell us about that.
Yep. So I had researched the law. I had talked to a ton of constituents. I had found out, not just in Pennsylvania, but all across the Commonwealth, how difficult it was to get a law changed or a law added to the books regarding 50-50 custody. Very, very powerful forces against you. I'll just name names. Pennsylvania Bar Association. You know, the bar has a ton of influence over members of the House and members of the Senate.
So, you know, we hear of custody hearings and that there's a judge and people talk and then we think it's fairly awarded. And so is it a possibility that they just made a decision against you, or was it deeper than that, you think?
Oh, I think it was much, much deeper than that. There's something, Joel, called Title 4D funding, and I won't go deeper. We'd talk for an hour about it, but it came about during the Carter administration in the 1970s, and as many laws are, it was a good idea at that point, but it's just exploded since then. And for every time a father and a mother get divorced and there's a payment made through the court system, that court gets reimbursed part of that from the federal government, Title 4D funding. So it sort of behooves many of these courts, and I'm not saying every judge is you know, corrupt, but there are a fair share that it helps the courts get money for projects. Well,
it's called House Bill 1499, Shared Custody Bill. Looks like you have some support on this. 30 co-sponsors, bipartisan. So what would this actually change?
Yeah, what it would change, it would mandate a couple things. That when you go into court, there would be a presumptive 50-50 if both parents are fit. Now, listen, if dad's a deadbeat dad or mom's a traveling nurse and she's not home at all, it would be impossible to get 50-50.
So that sounds logical. What is it currently then?
Currently, there's no presumption whatsoever. You go in and the judges start with no presumption at all. And in the Commonwealth, roughly 80% of the time, the mother will get primary custody.
How did your situation eventually turn out?
For mine, battled again for a couple years, and even the court order that came at the trial stated that, listen, Mr. Flick, you fought, and these are not the exact words, but we're going to give you 50-50. However, you're going to keep paying as though you don't have any custody whatsoever. That way, the court still was making money. It was beyond corrupt. I've shown that everywhere from the governor on down, and a lot of shaking of heads.
Well, it sounds like you got something done here. So take us through the process. What's the next stage of this? Where is it really at?
Yep. Well, again, House Bill 1499 is the next stage of it. As you mentioned, we've got a group of bipartisan. I had tried to run it as an amendment about a month ago, and it came very, very close. I lost by 2 or 3 votes. So restarting it into this relatively new session and getting the Democrats on board, it's about timing. So we will wait till the timing is right and then present it.
Well, speaking of timing, we're already late on something else. We mentioned your paycheck, not coming in yet. Where do you see things right now? You've been through a few of these.
Yeah, with the budget, to be fair, I'm sort of on the JV team, right? So I'm in the House of Representatives and I'm a Republican. So we're in the minority, 102, 101. So at this point, it is the House Democrats and the Senate Republicans that are negotiating. I would say on our side, on the House side, that Leader Topper, the minority leader, and Jim Sturzy, appropriations for the minority, have done a fabulous job, absolutely fabulous job, keeping the rank and file informed. And we have brought the budget down about $1 billion. So now it's up to the governor and, again, the Senate Republicans and the House Dems to move forward.
Okay, so give me a prediction. Are we looking at weeks, months?
Well, I hope it's not 6 months again. So, boy, your prediction would be as good as mine. You want to compare notes? You want to throw date out?
All right. Other people I've talked to on this show, they say weeks.
Okay, I'm going to say August 20th. Let's go with that.
See, they said late July, and we're getting very close to late July, and here we are. Okay, what's the sticking point to you then? What are you seeing now?
Well, a sticking point to me, I mean, we're bargaining and negotiating marijuana, skill games, and we don't really have a clear path for either of those.
So that's the revenue.
For me, it's energy, right? Yeah. We have so much natural gas. I'd love to see what we're doing here is what's happening in Alaska, that we just signed a MOU in Alaska, not we, Alaska, with Taiwan, with South Korea, and with Japan for $44 billion. We have natural gas here. So let's work with that.
It seems late in the game to try to bring something new to the table. I know it's been out there for a while, but it seems like we're hopefully closer to the details than some new big piece.
Oh, absolutely. This piece is down the road, but I'm just saying the energy sector has to be considered moving forward.
I hear you. All right. Well, hey, you put some things on our radar today. We'll see where the budget goes. I hope you get paid sometime soon.
Thanks. You too.
All right. Appreciate you, Representative Flick. All right, folks, coming up here, we're going to talk with Janelle Stelson. Interesting interview. We'll tell you what she learned from her first run against Representative Scott Perry, and the big question, where is she living nowadays? All right, welcome back, everybody. We are now going to talk to someone who was very close to winning last time, says she's going to go for it again. We have a former broadcaster. She's very comfortable in this office and in this space. Janelle Stelson, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. This is kind of where it all started for me here and across the street, so happy to be here.
I know. All right, so as a journalist, my first question. What is it?
What's your name?
Well, no, beyond that, it's why run again, right? You were close last time. What did you learn from last time that's going to make you a better candidate this time, maybe?
I learned that the key is still listening. That people want you to hear what they're concerned about, their issues, and what they're struggling with. If they're having trouble affording groceries or a roof over their heads or their medicine. These are all very basic things. And I will say for me and for them, they're sick and tired of not being truly represented in Washington. And the fact that Washington is so broken, including Scott Perry, that their concerns they do not feel are being heard or attended to.
What's different this time? How can you get those 5,000 more votes that you didn't get last time?
I think the story just keeps getting worse. He was the deciding vote on this bill that's going to add $3.3 trillion in new debt to Americans. It's basically mortgaging our children's future. It's going to slash health benefits for millions of Americans, and roughly about 20,000 right here in central Pennsylvania, who he claims to represent. He pretends to represent, but he's not actually doing anything that helps us. He's only voting to hurt us. Going to cut food assistance. We'll lose about 1 million more than 1 million jobs. These are all things that are really important. And in some cases, the Medicaid cuts, people have been telling me just terrible stories about how devastating these cuts are going to be to their families, and in some cases probably deadly. We're going to see hospitals have to shut down. Governor Shapiro has been talking about that a little bit.
Right.
You know, we're going to see more extreme shortages.
So you're saying, if all those things happen, it'll be the atmosphere that's different this time than the last 6 or 7 times that would put you over the top?
I think people are sick and tired of what's going on in Washington, and Scott Perry is a large part of that.
I talked to a lot of voters. When I mention your name, first thing they say is, did you work with her? Okay, I say, no, almost, not really. Second thing they say is, even their supporters.
Worked with your wife.
Well, that's true. But even the supporters of yours say, does she live in the district? And so I'll ask you again, do you live in the district?
I do. I live in Cumberland County. This is the 3rd time I've lived in Cumberland County. I lived in Camp Hill and New Cumberland, had 3 places in Harrisburg, 1 in Susquehanna Township. Know this area like the back of my hand after covering it as a journalist for 38 years.
Right. But last time you never moved, and maybe it was a few people that didn't like that, and you'd taken away that reason for them not to vote for you this time.
Yeah, listen, any distraction where we're not talking about how rotten Scott Perry's voting record is a distraction.
So let's say you win and the Democrats, get control of the House going into 2026. What's the first thing you guys want to do?
Work on affordability. That's the basis of everything. Until people actually have their houses in order, a good place to live, food on the table, paying for their medicine, that kind of thing, and good jobs. I just feel like right now, working class Americans, families are working harder than ever. If you have a good job or 2 or 3, you're still falling further behind. The math just isn't adding up, and we have to take care of these things before we do anything else.
You'll still be dealing with a Trump presidency at that point. Where can there still be some compromise to get to that point? Or is it just fight, and we'll do the best we can, and if nothing happens, nothing happens?
I always say fight for what is right. I mean, the job title is representative. You want to represent this area. You want to take votes that help us, not hurt us. The infrastructure plan that was passed last time, big deal. I-81, so many potholes on it that are axle benders. There's a lot. Our farmers, are struggling, businesses, These tax tariffs that Scott Perry fully supports have been a big problem. We're losing some jobs because of it. We just had the plant in Steelton shut down, one of the oldest steel plants in the entire country. Nearly 600 jobs lost. Where was Scott Perry during all of that? So there is an awful lot to be attended to. He's in his 13th year in Congress, his 7th term, and what's he done for us? Bupkis.
But the people keep voting for him. How can you explain that? You say he's done nothing in 12 years, but they've had 6 different times to vote him out, and they never did.
Well, if you want to get really technical, it is a +5 Republican district, so it's heavily Republican anyway. Yep. Josh Shapiro won this district by 12 points, though. He will be at the top of the ticket in 2026, and hopefully we'll have tailwinds instead of headwinds like last time.
Sometimes I know that people don't like some of these topics, but they work for Republicans. So let's see, when it comes back at you, what are you going to say? Transgender sports participation. 75% of the country says they don't want transgender athletes in female sports. If that comes up to you, what would you say?
I think that's something much like Scott Perry getting involved in when, how, if you're going to start a family by banning abortions and, basically saying that he knows better than people and their families and their doctors do. He's the one who's going to tell you how to conduct yourself in terms of women's rights. That's a problem, and I feel the same way about that. It's something that families and their doctors and school boards need to be involved in. I don't think government, I don't think Scott Perry and these career politicians have any business.
Okay, so it's district by district making that decision.
I think it's families and it's school districts.
Okay. You went through it last time. You decided to come back. Was it an easy decision to say, okay, I want to go through this ringer again? Because it's probably highly emotional. That night, you probably at one point felt pretty good about how it was going to go. It didn't turn your way, and yet you're coming back for it again.
Yes, I did at one point, Joel.
I saw you dancing. I mean,
and then you wake up, and it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
I would just say for me, it's all about Scott Perry. The story just keeps getting worse. The fact that he has taken extreme votes, I'm surprised he even calls himself a Republican anymore, the way he votes against the entire congressional delegation. But, apart from that, it's still, January 6th still resonates with a lot of people, according to what they tell me. He was so deeply involved. He had his cell phone confiscated by the FBI, and he asked for a presidential pardon. And I don't think you do that if you haven't done anything wrong.
Okay, well, some of these things sound familiar. Some things may be different. different. Either way, it was super close last time. So we'll see what happens this time. And of course, you got to win the primary as well. So, that happens. Thanks for being with us on Face the State. Good to see you.
My pleasure.
All right.
Thank you, Joel.
Yeah. So Representative Scott Perry's office responding to hearing that Stelson will enter the race again. A spokesperson says Janelle Stelson still a carpetbagger who can't vote for herself. Janelle Stelson still a racist who refused to apologize for disparaging Asian Americans. Stelson still supports raising the taxes of hardworking South Central Pennsylvanians by more than $2,000. I wonder what our political insiders think about all of this. We will hear that next. And the Epstein files. Do they have any real impact in places like Pennsylvania? We'll be right back.
Which is good.
All right, folks, my favorite time of the week is here. Our political insiders are joining me. It's Democratic strategist Mark Singal, Republican strategist is Mike Regan. So
You forgot my name for a second, didn't you?
well, the prompter has Charlie Giroux in there. We're going to talk about him a little bit later on and give him a shout out. So I know who you are. And I'll start with you. You just listened to Janelle Stelson talk.
Yeah.
Some of the same talking points, a few different things. Is it enough to make up 5,000 votes?
Well, let's see which one shows up. I mean, the trend of the Democratic Party now is Mundambi and AOC. That's the people who they want to put in office. So is she going to be a moderate or is she going to be a whack job? Let's see, which one she is. And if she is a moderate, like she says she is, will she receive the national funding? Be interesting to see that.
Interesting.
Well, I think she's already answered that question. She performed as a moderate when she ran the first time and answered questions and reached out to the Republican Party and so on. She's very, very much capable of doing that. And the Democrats are certainly going to support her because she is a very credible candidate and has demonstrated that before. So, yes, this is going to be
I added just one small thing.
1.2% difference last time.
One thing, last time around, most of her funding came from out of state.
Okay.
So that's something that needs to be considered. Will they still feel this way about her this time around?
Sure.
We'll see. On to this. So, year and a half in, the controversy now with ICE, immigration enforcement, is that a number of them have had their faces covered. It's actually encouraged by the Trump administration. Some people don't like this. They don't like the visuals of it. But the Trump administration says it's for their own safety. I go to you on this, former U.S. Marshal. What do you think about ICE having their faces covered as a strategy?
It's really not a strategy. It's trying to keep from being doxxed. I mean, that's what's happening. They're being doxxed.
It wasn't always this way,
and their families are in danger. Well, it's a different mission. It's a lot different mission. It's different what I was doing. It's different what regular police officers doing. But these are law enforcement officers that are being doxxed. Their families are being put in danger. And the only responsible thing to do for them is allow them to wear masks. And I think that's where the president's coming from on this. You got to protect your law enforcement. And you got to stand up for your law enforcement. And these aren't doing that right now.
What do you think?
I think that's nonsense. I mean, come on. Who are the ones being doxxed? Who are the ones being arrested? The fact of the matter is that they put these masks on and they armed to the teeth. They're separating families. They're cracking down on people who have not committed any crimes. They have their papers aren't in order. And so they got shipped off to jails and internment centers and things. This is awful. I don't know if people know this, but the big, ugly bill just allocated more money for ICE enforcement than the entire U.S. Marine Corps. This is the way the country's going, and I think it's repulsive.
Illegal immigration is a crime.
Okay. I want to get to this right now. The NPR and the PBS, that's the part of the Corporation of Public Broadcasting, looks like they will be losing their funding, $1 billion next couple of years. And they're saying that they will lose a lot from this. Other people say, why are you helping them anyway? Maybe they're not as fair as they seem. I'll let you go first on this one. The Democrats are against this. The Republicans trying to do this for years now. It's happening.
I think it's heartbreaking. I mean, what are you afraid of? NPR has provided programming for millions of people over the years, and it's always been very thoughtful, classical music and really in-depth kind of contacts, for many of their shows. I just think that they've got their priorities screwed up, and this is very sad. It's heartbreaking that we would take this action.
We talked about this a few weeks ago, and the governor was so concerned about Sesame Street. Well, the good news is Sesame Street has been picked up by a network, so Sesame Street's going to continue
Netflix.
on.
Yeah.
NPR now, on the other hand, NPR is a partisan news station, and taxpayer dollars should not be funding partisan news stations like CNN, like Fox News, now like NPR, and they're going to have to do it on their own. Let's see if they can survive.
It'll be interesting. I think maybe the local news becomes more important. People can say, okay, where can I get some non-biased stuff? We're going to come here. I hope that is the case.
Yeah.
U.S. Department of Justice is seeking some voter registration lists of Pennsylvania and several other states representing data on millions of Americans and other election information ahead of the 26 midterms. We've reached out to our state on this as well to see if they're going to fight it. But what's the reason for some of this that you've seen?
Well, I mean, this isn't new. This is a long-standing Republican thing. Like, we want election integrity. The president campaigned on election integrity. And I think the big thing is, look, we have anywhere between 8 million and 15 million illegal aliens that just flooded our country. I think this is a step towards making sure that we have election integrity. Republicans want this. This isn't a Trump thing. This is a Republican thing. We want election integrity, and this is one way of getting it.
Is that what this is?
No, this is voter suppression. This is the federal government looking for ways to discourage people from voting. They should be doing the exact opposite. And no, you shouldn't be sharing this information because all they want to do is weaponize their efforts to keep people from the polls.
I got to get to the Epstein files here. You know, a lot of Republican influencers are still on top of this. They're not going to let this go. And now we're hearing that some will be released in terms of what they can. Is this a big deal to Republicans?
It's interesting.
MAGA seems really split on this.
This is really interesting to me. This is vintage Trump. He had this information. Look, let's be clear about something. The former administration had all this same information. So if there was anything about Trump going to be released, it would have been released during the 2024 election.
Okay.
Trust me. So this is vintage Trump. This is saying, I'm not going to do it. Listen to all the outrage and say, okay, you really want it? We're going to give it to you.
But he's
And this is
criticizing his own voters during this time, you know?
Well, I mean, look, you're going to see who's on the list, and we'll see. You know, if they're going to reveal
if
the list,
we really
we'll
do.
see.
Okay, where are we now?
This is the most inept cover-up that's taken place since Richard Nixon. You know, he comes out and says, you know, Bondi says, you know, I've got the Epstein file on my desk. She gets a call from the president. All of a sudden, it disappears. And then you hear that, oh, well, maybe what we should do is unseal the grand jury documents. Well, that's simply misdirection because a judge might not unseal it. They can redact that and take things out of that and so on. So it's the way to do the minimal damage to Trump himself. So I think what's happening here is real simple. There's something there that he does not want us to know about.
It's just very interesting. This seems like one of the first times that he doesn't quite have his pulse on MAGA the way he usually does because they have not let this go. So we won't either. We'll see what's going on with this. Coming up next, it's not something about politics, but something that can unite the entire community. And yes, it's something I do in a weird way every year. We're talking about the Harrisburg Mile and a guy who used to run it all the time. Charlie Giroux, we missed you, buddy, but we're going to be running next. This is me finishing the Harrisburg Mile in the suit, 6:28. So proud of that. And the rain. Loved the rain.
6:28, that's pretty darn good.
Yeah, it's not bad for me. And then I'm making sure everybody else is feeling refreshed afterwards as well. We had a great time there. No one talked politics at all because it's one of those community events. We all got to get together, have a nice time. We love that. And we do miss Charlie Giroux. He used to run the Harrisburg Mile many times. We hear he's getting better. A lot of people ask me about that.
Let me just say this. You know, my good friend Charlie Giroux threw me into this seat in his absence. What a curse. A guy who's so good. So good.
You have to put
it
up
makes
for
it
that
very
single
tough for
now.
me.
All right. Well, we miss him either way.
We miss you,
Thanks to everybody
Charlie.
out there
Hope
for the
you're
Harrisburg
getting
Mile as
better.
well. We'll see you next week.